welcome to a special edition of Torah Talk. So since this week is my bar mitzvah, I'd like to speak about why I want to speak for my bar mitzvah drasha. So first, just the answer for last week in Parshas Yisro, the question was, which pasuk do we find that comes up in Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim? And the one in Torah we say every day, the one that is in Nevi'im we say once a week, the one that's in Ksuvim we say once a month. So the answer is Ozi v'zimras ka vayhili lishua. That's in Parshas Yisro. In the Shira, we say that's the one in Torah. We say it every day in Shacharis. And then the one we say once a week in Nevi'im, that's in Havdalah. We say pasuk in Yeshaya, and that has additional word Hashem vayhili lishua. And then the one in Ksuvim we say once a month in Halal every Rosh Chodesh. So, okay, that's the answer. So now, so I'd like to speak about what exactly is the nature of chinuch. So, like that chiyuv, the Rabbanon instituted on ketanim to be chayiv mitzvah is the Rabbanon. Also, how do we even know about a katan being pater from mitzvahs? And a gadol is only chayiv mitzvahs once he becomes 13. So, first of all, there's a Gemara in drasha, it's Memches. The Gemara says only someone who ate a kazayis could be mitzi the rabbim their chiyuv. So only then he could be mitzi the rabbim their chiyuv of Birkas Hamazon, and he could be mitzi them by saying Birkas Hamazon. So Rashi says in that a kazayis can even be someone who ate a kazayis, which is a shir d'Rabbanon. They can even be mitzi someone who ate a kedei svia, like when they're actually satisfied, which is a shir d'Oraisa. Since they're both mechuyev b'davar. That's how Rashi explains the Gemara. Someone who ate a shir that's the Rabbanon, could be mitzi someone who ate a shir d'Oraisa. They're both mechuyev b'davar. They're both called mechuyev b'davar. Since they're both chayiv in it, it doesn't matter if one's d'Rabbanon and one's d'Oraisa. But then Rashi says, however, we do not say this though by a katan she'agir lechinuch. A katan reached chinuch and now he's chayiv mitzvahs d'Rabbanon. So why don't we say that he can be mitzi a gadol? Why don't we say he can be mitzi a gadol? The answer is because he's not even chayiv mitzvahs d'Rabbanon, because the whole chiv of chinuch goes on his father, and really on the katan he's not even chayiv mitzvahs at all. So therefore, it's someone who's not being chayiv at all. Being mitzi is someone who is chayiv either d'Rabbanon or d'Oraisa. And then Rashi brings the shita of the Bahag that says that someone ate kazayis only mitzi someone else that ate kazayis. So that's what the Gemara means. And someone ate kedei svia, a shir d'Oraisa could be mitzi someone who ate shir d'Oraisa kedei svia. But someone ate a kazayis cannot be mitzi kedei svia. So now Tosfos argues on what Rashi says, that the chiyuv of chinuch is really on his father. So on him there's no chiyuv and mitzvahs at all. So Tosfos argues, first of all he says, now on Daf Chaf, before it says Ben Mevarich La, the Aviv, the Gemara before in Bracha is Daf Chaf. It says like a son can be mitzi for his father, and then that's mashma that a katan made a shir d'Oraisa can be mitzi a gadol a shir d'Rabbanon, and it's mashma from that Gemara that since a katan is chayiv d'Rabbanon and also his father is chayiv d'Rabbanon, since he only ate a shir d'Rabbanon, he can mitzi him. That doesn't seem like to go like Rashi. Also, second of all, how could even a d'Rabbanon be mitzi d'Oraisa to begin with? He's only chayiv d'Rabbanon. He can't be mitzi someone who's chayiv d'Oraisa. So therefore, Tosfos says that by a katan, even if he ate a kedei svia, he's not bar chiyuv d'Oraisa. It doesn't matter how much he ate. He's never bar chiyuv d'Oraisa. Even if there's a chiyuv d'Rabbanon on him, he's not. So that's why he's not mechuyev b'davar. We don't call him mechuyev b'davar. But by gadol, even if he didn't eat a kedei svia, he just mechuyev b'davar. This person, he is a gadol, so he's always mechuyev b'davar. So now, and he doesn't even eat at all. Someone eat avabisha yatsa mitzi. Tosfos brings that the Gemara says even if someone's yatsa, he can even be mitzi someone else because of Muslim. Even if he already never exposed himself. The only reason he needs to eat a kazayis, the Gemara says he needs to eat a kazayis to be mitzi the rabbim. The only reason is because so he'll be able to say shalchan mishaloi. He's allowed to say that we ate together when they're doing zimun. So now there's also Mishnah in Maseches Megillah. The Mishnah says that a katan cannot read the Megillah. Rabbi Yehuda machshir, but the katan. Rabbi Yehuda though allows a katan to read the Megillah. So what's the reason? What exactly is the machlokas between the Tanna Kama? It says he cannot read the Megillah and he might see everyone, and Rabbi Yehuda. So the Ran, the Ran brings Tosfos. Tosfos says that according to the Tanna Kama, it will be a katan will be 2 derabbanans on this mitzvah. It's a katan has a chiyuv derabbanan to do this mitzvah, and the mitzvah itself is a derabbanan. It's a derabbanan mitzvah to do read the Megillah, and someone who's chayiv a double derabbanan, a derabbanan on a mitzvah derabbanan can be mighty someone who just chayiv 1 derabbanan, which is everyone else. They're only chayiv 1 derabbanan in this mitzvah. So. But Rabbi Yehuda says, no, someone who's chayiv derabbanan on a derabbanan, that doesn't make any difference than someone just chayiv 1 derabbanan. Therefore, a katan, a double derabbanan can be mighty the rest, which are 1 derabbanan. And then the Ran then brings the shita of the Ramban that says, the Tanna Kama holds that there's no mitzvah on the katan. There's no mitzvah on the katan. This is just like Rashi said, that there's no mitzvah on the katan. There's no mitzvah at all, because the entire mitzvah of chinuch is on his father. So therefore, he can't be mighty other people that have a chiyuv, that have a chiyuv. And Rabbi Yehuda says, you're right. There's no mitzvah on the katan. But here we say a special thing. Afein hayu say nay. It's just like we say by Noshim to make them part of Arba Kaisais, to make them part of Megillah. We say part of a few different mitzvahs to make Noshim. Since they were part of that mitzvah in the Purim story, so in the Yitzhak Mitzrayim, they were part of the mitzvah, but they're part of the nes, so that's why they'll also be chayiv in it. So we say a similar thing according to the Ramban. We say a similar thing. And the shita of Rabbi Yehuda is that we say a similar thing about Ketanim. Since they're part of the nes of Purim, they will also be now they can even be motzi rabbin. So then the Ran argues on Rabbi Yehuda. He argues on the Ramban, and he says, "How can you say that? You can't say Afein Hayu say Nes. You only say that if it's someone who is a generally chayiv mitzvahs, like the Noshim, or chayiv most mitzvahs, except mitzvahs that is man gramo. But then you could lead their chiyuv, you could make their chiyuv a little bit longer and make it also go in other mitzvahs. But someone who's not chayiv mitzvahs, generally, like a katan is not chayiv any mitzvahs, now you're just saying pops up a random mitzvah, and now you're making him chayiv in the mitzvah of Megillah. So the Ran then argues on the Ramban. And then, so according to the Ramban, he also explains the Gemara ben mevarich la'aviv. It says a son can be mevarich for his father. So according to Ramban, that says there's no mitzvah at all on the katan. How could he be mighty his father? So he says it's really talking about ben gadol. It doesn't mean a ben katan can be mighty his father. Of course not. It's a ben gadol. He's a gadol. The Mishnah is saying there that a ben gadol can be mighty his father. And then when the Gemara says it's like it needs to be the Eir Shir D'Rabbanan, what do you mean? Even if the father ate a Shir D'Oraisa, the son, which is Chayiv, and the son Gadol could be mighty him. No, that's really just the Gemara needs that for Isha Mevrachas Abayla. It needs to explain it for that. And then even though also, as Rabbi Akiva Eger, he points out that even though it's mashma from the Gemara over there, that it's clearly mashma that's a katan. So then, okay, there was different girsa and there was shoinim in that Gemara there. So, anyways, we can find a proof for this shita of the Ramban. Perhaps we can find the proof from the different Mishnah, because that Mishnah in Megillah says that Tanna Kama holds that a katan cannot be mighty others, and the Rabbi Yehuda is machsher. So then if you look in the next Daf Chav Dalet in Megillah, a different Mishnah says that Rabbi Yehuda holds. Well, so first in the beginning, the Tanna Kama says that a katan cannot be paris al shema. He can't be like the shliach tzibur, this derabbanan version of being a shliach tzibur, which is like they would to be the chazan for like certain brachos, birkas kriya shema. So he cannot be Parshas al Shema. He cannot do that derabanan. And the Rabbi Huda doesn't argue. At the end of the Mishnah, he says, the Tanna Kama says that a summa, a blind person, cannot be Parshas al Shema. He can be Parshas al Shema. But then Rabbi Huda says, no, he cannot. So, because he never saw light, how can he say Yotzam Oiros if he never actually saw Oiros in his days? But really Rabbi Huda would hold that he can, just if he did see Me'oros before he became blind. So, really, essentially, Rabbi Huda holds that a summa can be, he agrees, a summa can be Parshas al Shema. So, first, it will be how could Rabbi Huda really agree that a summa could be Parshas al Shema? How could he might see others? A summa is only chayiv mitzvahs derabanan, and how could he might see others? So really, this is Rabbi Huda's shita, same shita that someone who's chayiv two derabanan, a derabanan on a mitzvah derabanan of being Parshas al Shema, it can be might see others that chayiv one derabanan. But then the question would be though, in the beginning of that Mishnah, it says that the beginning says that a katan, Rabbi Huda doesn't argue by a katan being that katan cannot be Parshas al Shema. Why doesn't Rabbi Huda argue? A katan is really a derabanan. Why can we see others that one derabanan? If that's really how Rabbi Huda shita, as Tosfos explains over there, that by a summa he's really a bar das. He really is a bar das, but then he really has a das. But by a katan he doesn't really have das. So even though a katan is usually, even though katan is really a double derabanan, and according to Rabbi Huda we hold that double derabanan is just as good as one derabanan. Still, a katan isn't good though because he's not bar das. But then the question you could ask is, how come Rabbi Huda machsher b'katan in the case of Kriyas HaMegillah? If really a katan isn't bar das, so what if it's 2 derabanan equals 1 derabanan? So what? He's not bar das. So perhaps this is how the Ramban, how he gets this, because the Ramban says that the only reason Rabbi Huda is machsher it's not because of the double derabanan is like 1 derabanan. He says it's only because of Afeinoi B'Sines, but usually Rabbi Huda would never be machsher by katan. He wouldn't. But only here he is a special thing, Afeinoi B'Sines. Yeah. Okay. So now in Tshuvas Chikrei Shais v'Tshuvas Chikrei Leiv, Orach Chaim Siman Ayin, he says that first of all he asks a question on the Ran. He says, so the Ran asks on the Ramban, how can you say Afeinoi B'Sines by a katan, because you can't you're not really continuing a chiyuv. The katan has no chiyuv on him to begin with, so you can't say Afeinoi B'Sines. You can't say that svara to make him chayiv in a mitzvah. So he asks, then according to the Ran, if using that same svara, how could you even say at all chinuch to begin with? How could the Rabban even make chinuch on a katan? Because according to the Ran, you can't do that kind of thing. You can't continue a chiyuv on someone that doesn't have a chiyuv. But now that's exactly what chinuch is. It's making their rights of their pater completely from mitzvahs, and now the Rabbanan are continuing. There's making out of nowhere a chiyuv. So that's the question he asked on the Ran. And he also asked a question in general by chinuch. How is the Rabbanan even letting him do chinuch? Because there's no loy saucer. The whole derabanans come from loy saucer. But now a katan is pater from all mitzvahs, including loy saucer. He doesn't even need to listen to the Chachamim. So why does he need to listen to them to do chinuch even? So he says maybe it's like a doichak. It's to say that all the based of each generation, they're responsible for just forcing the ketanim to do mitzvahs. That's a doichak. So now we'll get back to this. Perhaps we can answer this. So now, how do we know that a katan is part for mitzvahs? Once he's a gadol, then he gets chayiv, and a gadol is 13. So there's the Mishnah in Avos Perkei, Mishnah Chaf Aleph, says that a ben 13 lemitzvahs. A 13-year-old is chayiv mitzvahs. So the Rav and Torah Talk, they both say it's darshaning from Sukkim. It's deraisa. We're darshaning from Sukkim. The pasuk says ish isha asher yasu mikochat adam. It says by onshim ish. So ish, when is a person called an ish? We learned from like Shimon and Levi. We have a certain calculation that shows it calls them ish by Shechem. It calls them ish, and we can figure out that they were 13. They were exactly 13 at that time. So now we know that 13 is called ish, and then now he's chayim oichin. So he's chayim mitzvahs. But then in the Tshuvos Harosh, the Tshuvos Harosh doesn't say like this. He says that's a lach l'meshe Sinai. He says like shiurin, chatzitzin, those are all lach l'meshe Sinai. So part of shiurin, part of that is the shir of a gadol, and that's how we know the shir of 13. So now Rabbi Kiva Eger on that Mishnah, he brings the Tshuvos Zichron Yosef, Siman Vav, says that so really he speaks that like really it's a svara that that katan is not bardas. We know he brings from many places that really it's because katan is not bardas. But then the halacha meshma Sinai, all the halacha meshma Sinai is saying that it goes by 13, exactly the age of ben 13 yom echad, then he'll be chayiv b'mitzvahs. And then he says, even the Rav and Tosfos Yom Tov, they still need to say that it's not bardas. They still need that like svara to say that mitzvahs don't apply since it's not bardas. Because it's not enough just from having that drasha of ish, because that only shows about proof is that that drasha only shows about unshin, ish or isha, but how do you know mitzvahs essay? The Mishnah says ben 13 mitzvahs, any mitzvahs essay even. So how do we know mitzvahs essay? They're potter from, because they're not bardas. They still need to use that. So now, what chinuch really is that really everything in the Torah is really going also on a katan and a gadol. But just, there's a special thing by a katan, it's a p'tur, just like a cheresh and a shoita. Those are all p'tur. They're just oinus, they can't do the mitzvahs. So to a katan, he's just not bardas, he can't do the mitzvahs. So too, that's exactly the p'tur of a katan. And all the Rabbanon are doing by saying chinuch, mishagir chinuch, once he reached chinuch, then the Rabbanon is saying, fine, he shouldn't have that p'tur oinus anymore. He doesn't get that p'tur oinus, now he should be chayiv in it, as if he was chayiv in it deraisa. So now, based on this way to look at chinuch, what exactly the p'tur of ketanim and what exactly chinuch is, maybe perhaps we can answer the two kashas of the chikrei leiv. So the first one was, he asked on the Ran that how could you say afei noi v'asenes? So the Ran asked on the Ran, how could you say afei noi v'asenes? So then the chikrei leiv asked, you're also saying that same svara for chinuch, but maybe you're not actually saying that same svara for chinuch. You're not saying afei noi v'asenes and popping up a new chiyuv from nowhere and just popping up new chiyuv on ketanim. No, maybe actually, really, all the Rabbanan are saying that they shouldn't have the p'tur oinus anymore. Really, they should have an oinus, deraisa, but now they don't have oinus. They're not like forming out a new chiyuv on them. It's not exactly like afei noi v'asenes. So maybe you can answer that, and also maybe it just makes it not completely answering, but it just makes it a little bit easier to understand a bit. Just the other question of the chikrei leiv that he says, why is there even chinuch to begin with? There's no loy sasor in ketanim, so maybe it just like makes it slightly easier to understand, because like it's not exactly coming from the koyach of the loy sasor. It's really just like making it that they don't have a p'tur oinus. The Rabbanan are just really saying that like they shouldn't have a p'tur oinus anymore, because now they're gir lechinuch. Okay. So thank you for listening to this special edition of Torah Talk. Parshas Yisro.